Welcome back to Magic Hour Podcast. Taylor Page here.
And I'm Claire. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
August listener questions. How are we this far into 2025? That is absolutely insane. Like, truly, truly. I was telling Claire before we started recording that I'm in this autoimmune flare moment. So I'm kind of on the other side of it. I feel like I'm in the full glory of my Chiron square Chiron right now. But I think that it's reflected of how far I've come in my healing journey, that in the past, I almost wanted to be in denial that anything was wrong with my body. And I would start to notice like my eye getting red, and I'd be like, no, it's fine. And I would just power through. And now I'm like, nope, it's a little red. I get on the drops immediately. I have my diagnosis. But it's interesting because on a spiritual level, I feel like my autoimmune flares when, especially it's in my left eye, it flares when I'm not seeing something that I need to be seeing. And every single time it's true where I'm engaging in a subconscious energetic pattern that is burning me to the ground and I need to see it. And so my autoimmune is like, Kurt, pull the plug on her. And they're like, all right, 10-4. So this time, what I realized is that when you lose a parent, especially a parent who was the glue of the family, it really becomes apparent how much invisible labor they did to keep the family going. And I feel like, my family has been in a difficult chapter for the last few years, and there's a lot of like fragmentation and a lot of people not talking to other people. And just so much has happened within our family dynamics within the last couple of years. And it took this autoimmune flare for me to realize that I was taking on the invisible labor of trying to keep the family together, always being the one that has to make a plan, always has to make sure that this person is connected with this person. Like, I feel like I've been trying to cling to this idea of what I think family should look like and attachment to the outcome of having a family that sort of structurally represents what I grew up with and what I value so much. But it's because we're so fractured and disjointed, I can't just like invite everyone at the same time. I've been like trying so hard to be like the peacekeeper, the middleman, like seeing this person this day, that person that day. And I'm literally burning myself to the ground. And I just hit a wall, and it brought up my grief because I miss my mom. And it made me even realize on a deeper level the freaking mental load it takes to just be the organizer and the planner of a family, and how much invisible labor I feel like falls on mothers a lot of the time. Not always mothers, but a lot of the time mothers. And I've just been really contemplating, like, where is my attachment to having my family look a certain way absolutely driving me into the ground right now. And my eye was like, you better see it, girl.
Wow. That's so powerful, too. It's interesting. My mom would always say that when you get sick, it's your body's way of telling you to slow down and take a seat and that you need to rest. And I feel like that's so true. And even deeper level, that it feels like your autoimmune is in your eye and literally telling you to see something more clearly. And this is something that comes up a lot for my bestie, Mandy, just wanting to do so much with so many people and then feeling spread so thin and like you can't really show up for any of the things. And something we've been talking about a lot is just we can't do all the things, even though I want to. But it's better to be more intentional with the few things that you can show up for and really be able to show up for those versus trying to show up for all of the things and then just being spread so thin, because there's always a million moments to connect and a million activities to do with people. And as, social creatures like you and I are, and as people who are deeply invested in our families, it's easy to just want to fill our lives with one moment after the next of these connections. And I think trusting that like we'll still have those connections and that family bond, even if we do less, and that we'll be able to show up even fuller when we're like more intentional with it, I guess.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that like mental load that I was taking on came more from fear than love, more from scarcity than alignment. It's like I'm so scared of what will happen to the family if I step back that I'm going into chasing, forcing, debating, controlling. And that is never our path of highest good. And I had to choose love in that moment, which was to say, what happens if I step back? who else does that empower to step up? How does that let me heal myself? How does that create healthy new patterns? That has been really helpful for me. And of course, I was talking to my aunt about this, and, she had a really good point. And she was like, we have our feelings and our emotions, and then we judge them as good or bad. But what if they weren't good or bad? They were just information. Like, this is what's happening. This is how you're feeling. This is what your thought is about it. Now, can you just take that without the charge of positive or negative? And I think that that's such a great toolkit, because that judgment of positive or negative keeps us from the truth of what's actually in our power and our highest path forward, because we're too caught up. Like, my judgment was, it's not good to have a family that goes a certain amount of time without talking or hanging out. Or my judgment was, it's a good thing to be super close in this way, or putting pressure on myself to fill my mom's shoes in some way. And that's an emotional charge that was keeping me doing the song and dance of scarcity consciousness.
That's such a great way to look at it, because we do that. We like place that good and bad on top of everything. And then we're judging ourselves. And I don't think that really helps us get to where we want to go anyway. And it also takes us away from the gratitude of what is, because we're constantly like shoulding all over every situation. It should look like this. That's a great family. But there's so many different ways that families show up, and everyone has challenges within theirs. Even families that seem like they're just having the best time ever and they're so wonderful. I just spent time with my friend Tyler, and he has this huge family and they all party together, and he had a birthday party and his grandma was there and his grandpa was there, and we were listening to dubstep, and I was like, oh my God, my family would never do this. And I had some judgments come up where I was like, oh, my family's not as fun or whatever. But then I had to really take a step back and be like, my family might show up differently, but there's so much love and connection in my family. And that is something to be so grateful for. It doesn't need to look like his family to be beautiful. I can accept the way my family shows up and find all the gratitude and beauty in our unique way, and still see that, wow, that's a really fun family as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we choose our family for a reason. So there might be a soul lesson that our family can give us that that family couldn't, or whatever. But I love that. Before we go into the listener questions, I wanted to just do the August book recommendation. And that is The Psychic Dreamer by Dr. Michael Lennox. He was the guest of episode 111. And it's such a interesting, fascinating book. And I felt like it was very thematically relevant for the North Node being in Pisces for one more year. So this really is a time to connect with the psychic information that we can from the dream world. So I just devoured this book. There were so many stories in it that gave me full body chills. And once again, check out episode 111 with him, because it's a really great book. And we talk about it in that episode too.
Oh, I love Dr. Michael Lennox. He is such a bundle of joy and such a depth of knowledge and information about dreams. And dreams are so fascinating. I feel like my dreams, it's so funny because I feel like you've talked about my higher self having a very specific, like definitive energy. And I feel like my dreams show up like that too. It's so obvious what my dreams are metaphorically about. There's like no gray area. It's like, oh, you're clearly feeling like this, and that's why you dreamt like that. But it's still, I feel like there's more depths to go into it with it. And I've been trying to keep a dream journal. And it is just so interesting to see the themes that keep popping up. And I've noticed too, because I've been trying to heal certain parts of myself. And so before I go to bed, I've been doing a lot more like intentional thought, where I'll really sit and anchor in of the new thoughts that I'm trying to put into my psyche. And often my dreams will reflect that new reality. So it's like such a cool real time shift where I can see like what I'm feeding myself, I'm feeding myself.
I love that. That's so powerful. And I think the dream world and the subconscious is such fertile soil to plant those seeds right before we go to bed. And so I love that, of programming a new thought, or even like setting an intention for a loved one you want to connect with, or even, what do you want me to know, psyche, about this area of my life, or this thing I feel blocked in, and just letting yourself dream. And I think the book kind of goes into a lot of different ways to work with our dreams, but it is almost a whole untapped field that everybody has access to, even if you don't remember your dreams. Just sitting with the emotion you wake up with, or if there's any type of thing that in that space between being awake and being asleep that comes through. It's just a really fertile ground for exploration.
I love that idea. I'm going to try that, to ask what they want me to know or try and connect with a certain energy. I've been doing a lot of work with my inner child. So maybe tonight I'll ask to connect with her in my dreamland.
I love that. And you're a Pisces moon, so dreams galore.
Dreams galore.
Dreams
Yes.
galore.
In the waking and the sleeping.
Yeah. Any Pisces or 12th house placements, I'm talking to you, babe. Get your dream journal out.
Yes, I love that.
So before we get into the listener questions and stories, Claire was telling me before we got on that she has her own story to relay this week.
Yeah, so I was sharing with Taylor about just something that's come up for me. We had a reading many years ago. I don't think I've had a reading from you in like maybe 3 or 4 years.
Probably since the mediumship practice. Is that the last one?
I think so. And then the one before that was this reading that I'm going to reference.
So that must have been like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like it was like 2021. Because I remember going into it just feeling so lost, as we all felt probably in 2021, and like, what is happening? What does the future hold? So Taylor and I haven't gotten a reading from Taylor in a long time partially because Taylor and I are so close. We're such close friends that it can be kind of hard for her to read for me because she just knows too deeply what I'm going through. And she can't be as much of a blank slate like she always talks about with her readings with you guys. She's too invested in my drama and my life. Anyway, so this was years ago, and a couple things came up that I felt intense resistance to. One of which in particular, I was feeling lost about my career because the world had stopped, and lost about what to do to move forward. And she was like, I feel like you should get on TikTok and make some TikTok videos and try and create that way. And I just felt such resistance with that. And I'd been trying to do that, and I just couldn't figure it out. I would try and I would hate what I would come up with, and I would hate the process. So in that reading, I felt super frustrated with her saying that. And I was like, that's not helpful. I don't want to do that. Stop telling me that, So I was like, whatever. I'm not going to do that. Or maybe I tried again and failed and just couldn't really crack it. I don't know. Many people suggested it to me and I just couldn't crack it. And then recently I tried again, and suddenly it's like working for me. And not even just that I've been getting some awesome viewership.
Tell them about that. Tell them how many millions of views you've had.
A couple weeks ago, I posted a video that went viral, my first viral video. I got like 4 million views on it over TikTok and Instagram. And then since then, 2 more of my videos have gotten about 1 million views, which is so cool and exciting. So many new followers, and it's just so rewarding too, because it's videos that I make where I'm doing what I love. I'm playing a character or creating some sort of comedic idea and putting it out there.
And to interject really fast, for those of you who are new to the podcast, Claire's an actress, in case you're wondering, because you're saying like you felt stuck in your career. So yeah.
Yes, I'm an actress, and it can be tough as an actor to know what you can even do to help your career. It's a long road, and getting in front of the right people can be tough. But of course, the internet is an amazing tool for it. But I just really didn't feel like I could figure out how to do it. And finally, now I made a video a couple weeks ago, and it got a really great response and was really fun. And since then, it's opened up for me. And now I do feel connected to it. And I do feel like, okay, this is working now. And I don't know why it didn't work before. And I've had some feelings around it then about, I've wasted all this time. Taylor told me 4 years ago to do this, and I should have been doing it all this time. And so I was kind of bringing that up to her, where I was like, I feel some frustration around that, but I don't know. It just didn't land for me then. And now it is, for whatever reason. And so maybe it just wasn't the right timing. But she often talks about how people will get a reading and something won't land. And then many years later, it'll pop back up and you'll realize, oh, it just needed some time to develop or come to fruition. So it absolutely, and should I tell the other part about it too?
If you want to.
Okay. So in that same reading, she also said something about me, and it was like such a throwaway. She was like, oh, I'm getting something about your uterus. Maybe you should freeze your eggs. And then she skipped off to the next part. And so I felt a similar resistance to that, because at that point in my life, and still now, I don't think I want to have kids. I always thought I would. And then I haven't found a partner. that I would even want to do it with. And now I'm getting to a certain age. And it's kind of felt like this happy accident where I'm like, actually, because it didn't happen, I'm realizing now maybe it isn't for me. And I actually think that might be right for me. So I felt pretty settled in the fact that I was like, I don't want to have kids. And so then her saying that threw me, and I was like, I don't want to do that either. And I felt a lot of resistance in the reading where I was like, neither of these things are helping me. What the hell? Anyway, so then in the years since, when I would try with TikTok, I was like, okay, well, if I end up getting success on TikTok, then I'll freeze my eggs, because Taylor was right all along. So now I'm in this moment where I'm like, oh no, now I'm getting some success on TikTok, but I still don't think I want to freeze my eggs. So I brought it up to her because I was like, oh, you were right. So do you think you were right about that? And like, but I still don't think you were right about that. And I have some fear, of course, as I feel like so many women do, that at a certain point in life, I'll realize, oops, I do want to have kids, and now it's too late. So yeah, I've been grappling with that. And I brought all that up to her, and we thought it might be fun to share and discuss on the pod.
Yeah, first of all, it's so exciting to watch you blow up on TikTok and Instagram. Like watching your viral videos makes me so excited.
Thank you. It's been really fun.
Yeah. I also want to say, and I told this to Claire before we started recording, but I want it to be public record as well, that don't get too in your head about the egg freezing thing, because the level of development that I'm at now compared to where I was at in 2021 is literally night and day. So I think that just speaks for itself. But going back to this message landing in the future, my instinct about it is that one, time isn't linear in the spirit world. So it happens all the time where we get messages, then we're like, okay, well, that couldn't be me. And then boom, it is. For example, in 2016-ish, when I was in Massachusetts in Salem, I got a reading and she said I was going to be a professional reader. And at the time, my heart was set on being a comedy writer. And I was like, what is this lady even talking about? And then it took a couple years for that to start to really percolate and brew. And even in the beginning of creating Angels and Amethyst, I didn't know if I could really make this like my full-time job. And I was still writing comedies. I also have another example of somebody who used to do my nails. She came to me one time for a reading, also very early on, and she was asking me how she could like most creatively express herself. And as I was tuning into it, the only thing that I could see was like something creative and specifically tied to Asia. And that was like the only thing I could get. And fast forward like a year or two, and she's obsessed with K-pop. She listens to K-pop. It's her whole MO. She like follows all the people. She knows all the songs. She knows the dances. A huge K-pop fan. And back then, that message didn't make any sense to her or land at all. She's like, what do you mean something creative tied to Asia? Like anime? What are you talking about? And I was like, no, I don't think it's anime, but I don't know what it is. All I can get drawn to is like Asia. And I might have said music, but I'm not positive anymore because it was so long ago. And then she texted me like years later and was like, I think about our reading all the time. So many things that you said that didn't make sense at the time make sense now. And the thing tied to Asia that woke me up creatively is K-pop. And I was like, okay, thank you so much for letting me know, because I just feel like I'm crazy over here sometimes. So that's another thing, is like, I've had that experience. Claire's had that experience. Multiple people have, where it's just your angels and guides are giving you something that in retrospect you look back on and are like, oh, it was there the whole time. Like, pretty cool. Because like I was saying, time is not linear in the spirit world. Our perception of it in a physical body is. So they see a bigger picture. The other thing I was going to say is I feel intuitively like Claire's angels knew that I wouldn't be really giving her readings. That was like the last reading that we had, because we got too close, and it's just really hard to read for people that you're close to. So I think that they were also kind of like, tell her everything right now, tell her things right now. And so I think that that was like a part of the timing of it too. But what I was going to say too is, because how she was describing, like, I got the TikTok message and I was frustrated because I didn't feel momentum. I didn't feel it up. It didn't bring me joy. Then that's like, the message is there, but the timing isn't. And so I would just trust like the divine unfolding, because I feel like your personal growth, your voice, your presence, your energy, your connection to yourself and your power has like never been more radiant. So that's the timing where you're ready to like share your voice with the world in a bigger way, you know? And so I think that that is really interesting. And I think another point to share is when we get a message Like the K-pop one isn't a really good example because it was too vague too. But if we get like a specific thing, like when the lady told me I'm going to be a reader one day, or when I told you, I feel like TikTok would be really good for you. If we can't take that message, I would get, instead of trying to force it or make ourselves take it or completely discard it, I would sit with what the resistance to the message is bringing up, because our angels and guides operate outside of our resistance, and our resistance creates limitations on us being able to accept messages. So if a message comes through and it really like surprises you and comes out of left field, I would be like, I'm going to get curious about the resistance. Like, what is it about TikTok that isn't really lighting me up? Where don't I feel creative? What are my frustrations with this? Do I just not have time for this or other priorities right now? And I would just get curious about that.
Yeah, I think that's such a great way to approach it because it goes back to really anchoring into your intuition about things. I think for me at the time, I didn't feel creatively lit up about it. It wasn't like I wouldn't try. I would try and I would just feel like, oh, I don't like what I'm making. I don't feel good about this. And I think it took me longer to find my voice with it than I wanted to. And if I really look back, and I'm just having this thought right now, but if I really look back, I think I did start trying then. And it took me time to kind of like make something. And then I was like, or even the thought of I should do this is a first step in you doing this. I think Lauren brought that up from our coven in such a beautiful way when we were talking about ADHD. It was like, even the thought of like, oh, I got to get that task done is a first step in you getting that task done, even if you think it's just me thinking about how I should do this thing and I'm still not doing it. You know, so it's like you planting that seed and then me ruminating on, oh, she thinks I should do it. People think I should do it. I don't know. I don't know. And then another person giving me a nudge that helped me do it. If I look at it in that way, it sort of was happening, just not as immediately as I would love to decide that it should have. But yeah, going back to what you were saying, I think it's so important when we have resistance to just explore it. When we feel defensive, why am I feeling defensive about this? Why am I getting all riled up about it? Is it because it's genuinely not for me and I know that? Or is it because there's stuff I don't want to look at about it that makes me sad or worried or scared? For instance, with the motherhood thing, and you brought this up, and I thought it was such a great reframe. Was it about the fact that I knew in my heart I didn't want kids? Or was it that I want kids and I haven't found a partner that I want to have kids with and it makes me sad to think about it? You know, and like I actually think it's the first thing for me. But there is an element of the second piece for sure. I think it's good to explore that. Like, why do I feel so aggressive about this? There is so much information in the resistance that we can uncover about what is right for us.
Yeah. And also, angel readings are never about telling you what to do. So, with the womb thing coming up, if I was a little bit more developed, because it sounds like in that context, I was interpreting because I was like, they're showing me like your womb. And then I'm like, oh, maybe you should freeze your eggs. That's interpretation, like I was talking about in the intuitive development series. And obviously, like I was saying, I'm so much more developed since early 2021. But I think maybe it was more about bringing up those big picture questions and exploring those things and looking at those things. And I think back then I would jump from thing to thing without getting a little deeper like I do in my sessions now. So I wouldn't hang up on that because angel readings are like super, super gentle, never here to tell you what you must do, but bringing things to our awareness. I really like what you said about planting the seeds by even having the thought. I remember when Lauren said that, that was really powerful. And it's true, like angel readings even do plant those seeds. It's like it is the start of connecting with our highest path because we are thinking about things in a different way, or have getting permission to trust the intuitive messages we were already getting, because that happens so much too, where people are like, I know all of this. And I'm like, I know, but I couldn't have known. And I'm reflecting it back to you because I'm speaking to your angels who are always speaking to you. I think getting into the truth of your own heart about how you feel about the egg freezing, that is probably the best course of action without getting too hung up on what was said back then.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, it is, especially with Motherhood, I know for all of us ladies, it is such an interesting journey and the stakes are so high. We were talking about that. Like, you can't both have children and not have children. Like, you can only have one of those paths. And so it's such a big decision, and we've been so programmed to feel a certain way about it. And so, even having someone propose that to you is such a beautiful moment to really look inward and decide for yourself if that's right for you. And it's so nice to then have the freedom to decide if it isn't. It's okay if it isn't. And it's okay if it is. It's like the choice is ours. And when we choose to explore our deep desire about it, that's how we can really come to a decision that feels true to ourselves versus doing what everyone's telling us to do. Even like, if a reader is telling you to do it, it's like that's an invitation to really think about what you want.
Yeah. And I think even thinking back to 2021 me, I think that's maybe before I was even fully full time with this work. So, something to be aware of too is that you don't know the level of development that the reader is at, that you're getting the reading from when we like overly attach to something that's said and this and that. And no human being is perfect. We all can make mistakes, including myself, especially early on in our development. So, don't let any message outside of your own heart have precedence over how you feel. And I really trust that the messages will resonate with you in the perfect timing that you need to hear them. So it's just a fun fact how Claire can look back and be like, oh my God, you said TikTok so long ago, but the timing is right now.
Yeah. And even going back to what you just said about, you never know where someone's at in their development as a reader. I guess we could look to that and be like, maybe that information wasn't right. But I feel like I'm looking back on it now as part of my development of my intuition and my sense of self and what I want for my life. And even this whole conversation has been such a great invitation to just not look to other people to tell me what's right for me. It's like you gave me that guidance about TikTok and it seems to be right. But the other piece of it still doesn't feel right. And I feel like you giving me that was an invitation for me to connect to that, to be like, just because someone suggests something to you, even your close friend or a reader, like it's still up to you to sift through that and filter through it through your own heart. What a great opportunity to do so when something comes up that doesn't quite resonate. It's like resonance is available no matter what. Even if someone says something that you're like, oh, yes, or if they say something that you're like, what? It's like that's all an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think like some of the best readings are mirrors, just asking you to look in the mirror in areas that you might be missing or not seeing clearly. And so, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let's go into a listener question.
Okay, cool. This is a question from Jessica. How do our spirit guides and angels come to support us during our healing journeys? Specifically, do they come and guide us during therapy sessions? I've had a few deep therapy sessions, somatic experiences, EMDR, IFS therapies, where I was in a very vulnerable state. And at the time, I wasn't sure if it was me or my spirit guides or angels. How do I decipher who it is or if it's me during deep therapy sessions? Happy summer solstice. Many blessings, Jessica.
Beautiful question. Thank you for this, Jessica. I think that our angels, our guides, and our higher self will never miss an opportunity to make themselves known and to show us how supported we are. And in these deeper healing sessions, there's often emotional release and detangling from the heart that allows us to crack open in a more receptive way to feeling our angels and our guides. So I don't think that it's those are the moments that your angels and guides are with you. I think it's those are the moments that you might be creating the conducive conditions to feel your angels' love. Our healing journey is so powerful because our angels, our guides, our higher self, we can't fully conceptualize and hold that light without doing that shadow work and that deeper healing on ourselves, or else we would just feel like it was too good to be true, or love like that doesn't really exist, or whatever those stories are. So I think when you do that healing work on yourself, it opens you up to that love. And I think that that love is available all times because, like I say, it's really important that we don't overly pathologize this work and feel like if I'm doing this, then I feel my angels, because we have the ability to feel our angels and guides at all times. That being said, I really do feel like therapists and healers are influenced by spirit guides and angels all the time in what questions to ask and which areas need to be addressed and where their hands need to be placed for massage or Reiki. Like, I think the divine works through instruments of healing of all kinds, not just readers. And I think that spirit works through us all with our own gifts and individual senses. And so, to the point of the question of like, how do I know if it's my angels and how do I know if it's me? I think that that is where it comes with practice. Like, you start to, after connecting with your angels for a long time and doing the practices of daily connection and sitting in their love and asking them what a yes and no feels like in your body, you can start to sense like this is how my angels feel and this is how they connect with me. This is the colors that I get when they're around. This is the feeling. This is the temperature. Like, I get really hot when my angels are around and I get really emotional. Like, something just clicks and I'm like crying happy tears like all the time with my angels. So I think that it really comes down to familiarizing yourself with what their presence looks and feels like. Because when it's just us and our inner love, I think that it's like love with a lowercase L, and then their love feels like love with an uppercase L, where it just feels fuller in some way, like it takes up the whole room, and you can almost, it's almost like time freezes for a second and you're observing something outside of yourself when they're coming in too. So pay attention to that. And when you're more in the practice of connecting with them outside of healing spaces as well as everyday spaces and sacred space outside of like therapy and somatic work, I think that that will help you distinguish as well.
I love that. And you've often talked about this too, that, our angels are always with us. It's more about whether we are always with them. I feel like there's a million ways to connect or notice the presence of our guides and angels. And most of us are going about life not even noticing it. And then once you start to tap into this work and tap into yourself, you start to notice the little synchronicities and the ways that, like, lately I've just been really seeing butterflies, I feel like, as almost like an exclamation point on a thought, where it's like I'll have some sort of thing I'm thinking about and there's that butterfly flying by to kind of be an encouraging yes. So I think, yeah, the more that we're tuned in, the more we'll feel it and notice it. And it's been such a cool experience for me, like you said, to notice the different ways that they show themselves to me. Like, for instance, lately I feel like the breeze is them for me. It's like I'll be talking with a friend about deep stuff and we'll get to a point that feels like yes. And it's like, there comes the breeze kicking up, rustling the trees, almost like they're all being like, yes, yes. So anyway, I just think, yeah, the more that we're open to it, the more that we'll see it and feel it and find those distinctions.
Yeah. And that's very air sign of your angels.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think like in these spaces of healing, we're unblocking ourselves, we're unburdening ourselves, we're releasing things, and that opens our angels up to be felt and experienced in a deeper way. And also, and I've spoken about this ad nauseum in the Intuitive Development series, episode 223 and 224. Self divination is an inward spiral, not an outward seeking. And so I think that for our own personal development, growth, and connections with our angels and guides, going down that deep wooded pathway of excavating the shadowy spaces in our heart and crown chakra and throat chakras, I mean, all of our energy centers, going inward in that way connects us to our power and our intuition so deeply because we're being so real and truthful with ourselves. And I think that's something that our angels are also very much a part of, applauding and supporting in their ways.
I love that. And I love what you spoke about in terms of healers and therapists, that they are, whether they're even aware of it or not, influenced and tapping into our guides. And therefore, like, they have almost a deeper knowing of what we need that is coming from that other sense. And, that kind of work, to be called to that kind of work is such a spiritual journey anyway, whether or not you consider yourself to be a spiritual person. Like choosing to be a healer in this world is a spiritual journey and such a gift. And so I just feel like, of course, they're tapped into our higher selves and this higher realm. And so it makes sense to me that in your therapy sessions, you're feeling super tapped in because, of course, you're choosing to work on yourself. And that is what your angels want for you because that's your highest good, of course.
You're making yourself more of an energetic match to your angels, your guides, and your higher self through that work. And so you're experiencing that in that container. And similarly, people who choose healing paths in this world, like nurses, for some reason, I want to say teachers, because I feel like teachers are like earth angels too, therapists, all different types of paths and different types of healers that are here that are trying to foster consciousness and help people heal mind, body, soul. You are an energetic match for earth angel energy. So of course they will work through you.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, it's a beautiful question.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, let's take another one. This question is from Mari. Hello, Taylor, Claire, and Melanie. I was wondering if Taylor could speak a bit about the energy of Archangel Azrael. In a recent episode, Taylor mentioned asking for the name of the angel she was connecting with. When I did this, I clearly got the name Azrael or Azrael. About a decade ago, I remember doing a meditation where we were guided to go into the 8th chakra or the star chakra and follow the path from there to our home star. And I remember hearing the name Azrael again for that home star energy. When I looked it up, I saw that they are known as the angel of death, change, transition, peace, and many other things. I was wondering if Taylor ever connects with the energy of this angel and what it might mean if they are a guide for me. I learned about the podcast from a friend this year and I'm absolutely loving it. Thanks for all you do, Mari.
Thank you so much for this question, Mari. This is such an interesting one. So, to rewind, my understanding of archangels is that angels have never been human. So, they are not restricted by names, forms, gender, anything like that, that we personify them, we anthropomorphize them so that we can better understand them. And they're happy to show up that way for us to better understand them. So it's very human to be like, this is the archangel that rules this. This is the archangel that rules that. But I think if you think about it in more of an archetypal consciousness, like we can see I'm a Scorpio sun, Sagittarius moon, Aries rising. I'm not just the human of intuition. I have so many other facets and there's so many layers. And so we can never just simplify archangels or any type of angelic or human energy into just one box. There's always so many more layers. But that being said, it's very hard for us in human form to fully conceptualize of angelic energy. So they do take these different associations, colors, names, and forms for us to better understand them. Archangel Azrael is really an interesting one to come up. I also say they, since they've never been human. I don't like to call anything that I don't have to he. That's like associated with the divine. They have enough already. That's called he for a divine. So Archangel Azrael is one that I haven't really worked with a lot. It's interesting because when I was grieving my mom, it was actually Archangel Zadkiel that I was working with. Archangel Zadkiel is an archangel of like grief and release and forgiveness and letting go. And they have a really beautiful purple light around them. And how I was aware that I was working with them was as I was meditating, I kept seeing this purple light engulfing me and helping me through my grief. And when I started to tune into it, I saw the purple light turning into angel wings. And I just knew I had to look into what angel is associated with purple light. And I saw it was Zadkiel, and it just felt really right to me. And so that's an archangel that I really recommend for people who are going through tumultuous times and grieving. My understanding of Archangel Azrael is that they almost have like a smoky, shimmery gray color to their energy. And in retrospect, I saw that color in my mom's aura before she was about to pass. If you listen, I don't know which episode I told this story on. It was definitely a listener question episode this season, but I tell the story of how there were two times I saw auras, and both of them were for people that were about to pass. And I talk about this gray color like in their aura. And I'm wondering in retrospect if there's some connection to that archangel that's there to kind of help facilitate the transition. In my experience, there's a few archangels that are more common to work with humanity. Archangel Michael is like number one, like most active user. Archangel, and that's the archangel connected to the sapphire blue light. And they're really about like protection, illumination. They give strength. They're like a very powerful archangel that a lot of people feel connected with. There's Archangel Raphael, who works with humanity a lot. That's the Archangel of healing, and they have an emerald light. There's Archangel Gabriel, who's like the messenger archangel. They're very active with humanity. I feel like Archangel Zadkiel is coming in more and more for people because we have been in such intense energetic times. It's interesting too because so these archangels are biblical, like they are in ancient texts, their names and stuff like that. So they've been revealing themselves to humans, but it doesn't really matter how we conceive of them or what we call them. It's just that we recognize them by these names and forms. So that angelic presence shows up in that way. It's kind of like in a mediumship reading, like if somebody's demonstrating for a crowd and a spirit person shows up and the person in the audience isn't receiving them or understanding them, somebody else will step in and be like, okay, I can take that information and my person will recognize this. And they'll like switch spots so that they will get their message to the person. So I feel like the archangels do this similar dance where they're like, this is how they can get the message. This is how they recognize me. These are the forms, but they're definitely not limited to them. And so if Archangel Azrael is working with you, they're associated with Pluto, Plutonian energy. In the 12th century Moorish Spain, there was some like syncretism between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And it was like this time period where everything was mixing. And part of that melting pot was associating biblical angels to planets, like planetary associations. And of course, Pluto wasn't discovered yet. We didn't have the technology for that. But as Pluto was discovered, Archangel Azrael got associated with Plutonian energy. So I would ask Mari to look at her birth chart and see which house is ruled by Scorpio, where Pluto is in your chart, where there are themes of personal power, transformation, death, and rebirth. And I feel like Archangel Zadkiel is the aspect of angelic energy that helps us while we're going through intense grief and intense times of emotional shedding. But I actually feel like Archangel Azrael is more connected to the spirit world and transitions within the spirit world, less on earth. And that's why it's like an archangel presence that's less known and worked with here on earth. I feel like, you know, different angelic presences are kind of like, okay, you take it from here. And then once our soul has left the body, it's like Archangel Azrael's helping us transform. It's like our souls still have angelic connection in the spirit world. And I almost feel like they're more of a spirit world angel. It's very interesting to think about. And I don't always work with archangels, but I find that in my readings for people who grew up super religious, it sometimes helps them as a gateway and like having training wheels on almost to like opening up to the spirit world and feeling safe is working with the archangels as like a gateway drug into just opening up to their angels, ancestors, and guides. So it's really definitely interesting. I think that there's a lot of healing and power behind the archangels. And I think that it's a beautiful thing for you to explore, like what needs to die away, where might I be called towards mediumship or working with the spirit world, how can I be more powerful, how am I navigating transitions, all of those themes.
Yeah, so interesting. I know very little about archangels, so that was really fascinating to hear you talk about. And it reminded me of something. I don't know if you said this or someone else, but I have this beautiful deck, The Power of the Goddess, or something like that. And it's all cards that are goddesses. And I really connect deeply to it. And someone was saying that they believe that there is just one great goddess, if you will, and that all of the goddesses are different forms or energies that she takes to help us navigate certain things. And so it made me think about that with the archangels of like, they are maybe taking certain forms to guide us through specific things, but the energy is all coming from sort of the same energy.
Yes. That's what I talk about on our episode with Michael Cardenas. It's episode 208 is where I talk about that concept with him.
Yeah, I just loved thinking about it in that way. Not that, either way is great to think about it, and whatever you're getting from the connection is kind of what's meant to be received, right? It's like we're navigating something and we're getting energy to help us navigate it, however that needs to look, whether it needs to feel represented in the form of a goddess, which helps me because I love that energy, or if an archangel helps you feel connected to that energy, or if an animal guide, there's all these different ways for us to tap into and experience the dynamic energies that are like being alive and being in this crazy existence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that too, it's very common for our spiritual practice to be an egoic playground where it's kind of like, I'm actually like not from here and this is my story. And we just project a lot of human consciousness onto what existence in other realms, dimensions, planets even are. And it's interesting because I've had the flash of somebody's soul. Like I was reading for somebody and she was asking me a question and it was about this galactic starseed type of thing. But I literally just saw her floating in this red light where everything was telepathic. Like everything was communicated telepathically and there was no physical body. And it was like a really interesting form of matter that wasn't a physical body, but it was physical. It was so interesting. So I feel like we try to think of things like there's a civilization over here and they only embody these qualities, and that's the qualities I see in myself. And I just, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but I'm just an extremely evidence based person. And so I would say stay open and have fun on that journey of exploration, but just watch out for overly humanizing or projecting human rules or consciousness onto things that I think are really outside of our realm of understanding. Because the part of the question that makes me say that is this idea of what is my home planet? And I know that this isn't necessarily like Mari's belief. It was just a guided meditation that she did. And I'm not even really talking to Mari anymore. I'm talking to the community at large. Like I see a lot of these narratives of I'm a Pleiadian, I'm a avian. Like I don't even know the examples. And I'm not even saying that there might not be some truth or validity to that, but I just think watch out for where that might be more of an egoic exploration instead of like just another thing that's bringing our attention outside of us, when I really think the true juice is inside, inside, inside. So like even if these archangels are coming to us, it's less about us escaping into their realm and seeing what their themes activate within our own heart, what we're own navigating, and how we can go deeper inward.
Yes, I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah. I think we have time for one more.
I think so. Let's see. This question is from Kat. Could you speak a bit more on the shield spells, please? I'd really welcome it. With thanks, Kat.
That's such a funny question because I just brought up that episode. And of course, with my memory, episode 208 with Michael Cardenas, it's a whole episode with defense spells and shielding. And basically, it's my preferred method of energetic protection. I don't really lean into like hexes or ill wishing anybody. I'm like, okay, whatever you send to me, good or bad, is just going right back to you so that I can be in my own energy. And this is actually a really synchronistic question to come up because I was talking with my aunt last night, of course, and I was telling her how burnt out and exhausted I was. And she was like, similar to how singers go on vocal rest, mediums need strong energetic boundaries. You can't be pouring out your energy to everyone at all times. And it's so true. Some of the best readings that I do come from after a period of rest. And so I think like shielding spells tying it in is that, first of all, boundaries and listening to what our boundaries are is one of the strongest shield spells that you can ever have, because we naturally have intuitive pulls about what our boundaries need to be, and we are constantly crossing them. And when we cross our boundaries, no shield spell can fix that. So that's the first thing that's really important, is like really listening to our boundaries, giving ourselves rest and peace and quiet. But basically, go to that episode because we really break down ideas for shield spells and how to work with shield spells. But the nature of them is just visualization, like visualizing yourself in a pure light of any angelic light color that you want to, or any color that's speaking to you. You can say a mantra like, I wish you well, I wish you away. And it's just all about coming back to your own energy and filling up your own cup. So I think that there's a lot more information in that episode, and I recommend that you check that out.
Yes, this is so synchronistic because I feel like I've been navigating a situation where I felt like I needed some shielding spells. And yeah, it can be tricky in the world to uphold our boundaries, especially when we're dealing with other people and other people's needs and desires of how they want us to show up. That's a situation I'm navigating where I feel like I'm struggling to uphold my boundary while feeling like I'm not giving another person what they want from me. And it makes me feel mean and wrong, but I also feel strong in my sense of wanting to uphold my boundary. And one of the ways I've been doing it, because I have to share space with this person, is through these energetic shields, where I may not be able to physically distance myself from this person because of my circumstances, but energetically, I can protect myself and my energy by creating this bubble, like she talks about, or filling my aura with this light, and therefore having a boundary about how much of their energy I allow into mine. And that is just a really great tool, because sometimes we do have to be around people like at work or wherever, where we can't control the energy that comes to us all the time. And I've really been playing with that, and I feel like it's been helping me. I'm still a novice, but I feel like it's been helping me.
That's such a good point, because if we break down the energetics of that dynamic from a magical and shield spell perspective, basically, you're not giving your energy, your reaction, or what they're asking of you to them. You're conserving it, you're listening to your boundary, and you're staying rooted in yourself. So their neediness that they're projecting on you is bouncing off of your boundary or shield, and it might intensify the way they try to get your attention. It might make them heightened emotionally. It might trigger them because the energy that they're giving you was not received. It bounced back to them, causing a heightened energetics within them. So I think that's exactly what I'm talking about with boundaries as a shield spell. And I think that also in these heightened collective energetic times we're living in, having boundaries, listening to your inner boundary, having shield spells up for the collective and for the individual is like so important for us to have a full cup to live from and thrive from. It's very difficult in times of collective heightened energy, and we can't be of service to anyone if our boundaries are being crossed and we're just shells of ourselves that are bitter and resentful. And so how you can know that you need some more shield spells can be resentment coming up and bitterness coming up and feeling like your boundaries are being crossed. And I would sit with those emotions as messengers, get really clear with where the boundary within your heart has been crossed and what needs to change, and start to do some visualization work, start to make changes, mental, emotional, and physical, because the mental part of witchcraft is like the visualization component, which is so important. It's also the understanding, the clarity, the intention, the mantra work. The emotional is like really feeling what that boundaried, empowered version of ourself on the other side of that shield spell would be, and also feeling the truth of our emotions. The physical can be representing it through like a black candle signifies protection, or charging a tourmaline, a black tourmaline with an intention to stay grounded in your own heart space. Like you can use these magical tools to bring that intention into the physical world as well. And then the true way of upholding a magical spell is to make a new choice from the vibration that spell has created.
Wow. I loved what you said about feeling what it would feel like to be the version of you that is upholding that boundary. Because I think sometimes we focus on just like the boundary. Like I'll just be thinking about, okay, this light that's protecting me, but not really thinking about the way I will feel when I'm protected and embodying that version of self that's grounded in the knowledge that I don't have to give my energy and that I am safe and protected. That's almost like a different way of looking at it than I'd even thought about.
And that part of the visualization and the like fantasizing, it's not really exactly the right word, but just the visualization of that reality is such an important part of the spell because one, it shows us when we're off track to that feeling because we know what that feeling feels like. Two, it trains our body that it's possible and what to look for that. It resets our nervous system. But shield spells are so interesting because every time I've ever cast them up and somebody was trying to like control me or hurt me or push me, they literally have gotten physically sick. It's very interesting. It's like what they were pushing out to me, I just would not take and would not budge. It kind of reminds me of the term in the narcissist world, which is stonewalling or gray walling, where you literally give the narcissist not a drip of your reaction or your energy. It's like everything is okay, no, good, like minimal. And that stonewalling is literally a form of shield spell because you are taking all the emotion, charge, and power back out of your interactions with them and engaging with them from behind a literal stone wall. So I think that that's a way to think of it too.
Yes, that's a great way to reframe it. And, I think something that I'm grappling with too, that I'll just offer as well, is it can feel hard, especially if you're someone who is a people pleaser or a giver. It can feel hard to not feel another person's desire for you to give them what will satisfy them. And obviously, with a narcissist, that's like a deeply difficult dynamic where they are asking you to give something you don't want to give over and over again. And I think a lot of us are willing and familiar with sacrificing ourselves, and it is deeply uncomfortable to make a new choice, and it usually makes the other person uncomfortable. And I think I can struggle with feeling uncomfortable. But I think there's a lot of power in being willing to be in that new dynamic, that discomfort that actually honors you. So if you're also feeling that as I am or navigating something like that, I think don't let the discomfort be a sign that you're doing something wrong. It sometimes holding up a boundary is uncomfortable because it's not giving in and giving of yourself, which makes it easy. It's like a harder choice, but you're honoring yourself by doing it. And ultimately, then I think we honor everybody because when we give of ourself and it's not right, that's not a clean energy.
I think that you can also honor your boundaries and be kind at the same time. The stonewalling is kind of an extreme example with someone who's abusive or narcissistic, but just in a regular everyday scenario, I think just speaking your truth and upholding that truth, there doesn't have to be anything out of alignment with love in that. And if they take it as an attack on them, that kind of has more to do about with them in most cases than it actually does for us.
Yeah, that's such a good point. We can still move with kindness when we uphold our boundaries. And sometimes it can be tricky to find that new normal. But I think as long as we are doing what feels right for us and moving with kindness, then all of us will benefit from those boundaries for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the North Node in Pisces, it's like such a moment collectively of grappling with the idea of boundaries. Like the Virgo Pisces polarity is so much about boundaries versus dissolving boundaries. And Pisces can be very much like enmeshed and codependent and losing themselves in others, whereas Virgo can sometimes be too controlling and boundaried and regimented. And so I think this year that we're in with the nodes in Virgo and Pisces is such a deep exploration of boundaries and where we fall on that spectrum, because having too many walls up isn't right either. Like when you have too many shield spells up and you protect your peace a little too hard, then we're also not engaging with our highest timeline or the lessons that are here for us in this life. So I think it's all about finding the balance there.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point.
Yeah. I also just want to say, if you love Magic Hour podcast and want this to be a sustainable project for the long term, there are some really easy ways that you can support us and show us the love. One of the most easiest is just to make sure you're actually subscribing to us on Spotify and Apple Podcast and YouTube. It helps our metrics and helps us eventually get sponsorships that will allow this to be a sustainable project. If you subscribe to us on YouTube and send us a screenshot of that subscription, we'll also enter you into the next angel reading giveaway as a bonus entry. You can leave us 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. That, of course, goes without saying, helps more people find us. Another easy way to support the podcast is to engage with our content on social media, to leave comments, to let us know how you like the episode, to share us on your stories. We really, really appreciate it. And of course, tell the magical people in your life about the podcast too. It really helps us grow.
Yes, thank you so much to everyone for all your love. Thank you to everyone who sent in a 5-star review. Please keep them coming. And why not? Because you get added to the giveaway again. So it's a win-win-win.
Yes. And every time you send in a screenshot to contact@magichourpod.com of your 5-star review, when you send in a photo, I should say, you get a free downloadable angelic meditation as well. So take advantage of that. We always like to give back when you give to us, and we appreciate the reciprocity if you get value from the pod. So let's transition to sitting with spirit. Before we go into sitting with spirit, Claire and I are so excited to announce the third angel reading giveaway. We love you guys so, so much. So basically, to enter this giveaway, if you've entered any of the giveaways, you're entered into this one. You enter by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and taking a screenshot and sending it to us at contact@magichourpod.com. You get bonus entries for subscribing to our YouTube channel and for tagging us and sharing us on your stories and also sending us a screenshot of that. So thank you guys so much. And Claire, will you do the honor?
Yes. Okay, before I pulled out of a hat, but today I'm going to do it electronically, you guys. It's going to be an electronic out of the hat. So I'm going to close my eyes and scroll up and down. And when I feel ready, I'm going to stop. Alexa L. I think Alexa Lynch.
Okay. I am so excited to connect with you, Alexa. We will email you as soon as this episode comes out. And I'm so excited to get you on the books. I absolutely love doing these free giveaway readings and getting to connect with the hummingbird community. So yay, congratulations, and cannot wait to connect. I also have an extra special announcement as well. So we have a beautiful hummingbird in the community. Her name is Eliza Grace, Eliza Jean Grace, and she is the founder of Alchemy Healing Arts. And she very kindly sent Claire and I some of her hummingbird nectar scent, which is just so beautiful. I haven't seen Claire in person yet to give it to her, but Claire, take my word, it's very nice and beautiful. And she sent a really sweet note. She is helping support the podcast with her hummingbird nectar because, firstly, how synchronistic is that? That's one of her signature scents. And she said in her letter that hummingbirds has been one of her main animal guides for the last 10 years. And so she felt really called to support the podcast. And with the next 10 people who send in screenshots of their 5-star reviews, Eliza is going to mail you some hummingbird nectar as a thank you for listening to the pod. And it's just a really beautiful collab. So we're so appreciative of that. And I love how this community keeps supporting each other and giving back.
I'm so excited. This is such a beautiful offering. Thank you so much for doing that and offering it to the hummingbirds. I'm just so touched, and it's such a beautiful way to interconnect our community with each other and to lift up and support each other. So thank you so much for doing that. I can't wait to put it all over.
Absolutely. And let's now transition to sitting with spirit. Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit, my loves, the part of the podcast where I sit with our angels, our guides, our loved ones in the spirit world, and give them messages for the collective. As always, take what resonates with you, leave the rest. And if you know somebody that could use this message, please send it their way. So the first thing that I want to share this week is a message that I found to be very freeing when it came through. And if you're anything like me, sometimes you're trying to fall asleep and this like download is coming through and you're like, okay, I'll look at the blue light, I'll open my phone, I'll type on the notes app. And that's the way that this one came in. So I was trying to fall asleep when this really beautiful message came through that I wanted to share with the collective. And that message is: perfection cannot exist in a world whose basis is duality. This physical world is all about duality, and that duality is obviously so heightened, or at least our awareness of duality seems very heightened in these modern times with us versus them and black versus white. It's like it's all so polarizing right now. And in a certain sense, duality is the essence of what this world is, so that we can experience something other than oneness. The spirit world is this oneness consciousness, and being a spirit in a physical body is the blueprint and at the basis layer for all duality on this plane. So it's kind of a really big concept that's hard to put words to, but I hope you're following me so far. And so when I got this message, it was basically saying, you can never be perfectly healed in a world whose whole premise is based off of duality and experiencing duality. No matter how healed you are, there will be unhealed parts. No matter how enlightened you are, there will be unenlightened thoughts. And that's why the trick isn't to get too caught up in over identifying with the experience of this duality and going back and forth, but instead being the observer of it, the witness of it, and learning through duality instead of trying to over attach to labels and identities. And I found that to be really freeing, because it's like perfection can exist within duality. And you can never be perfect. There will always be imperfect parts. You can never be a full earth angel. Sometimes the ego is going to come out. That is just the nature of duality. And I think giving ourselves permission and not judging ourselves for being humans, spirits having this human experience and living in this polarized time, and also just in the framework of duality, is like giving ourselves grace. So I really hope that you find that as comforting as I did when it came through. And so the next thing I want to say is that I've been feeling for quite some time that a lot of us are navigating liminal in between spaces where there's more question marks than answers. And I feel that on the collective, where everything feels very precarious and it's easy to kind of doom scroll and get into this narrative of doom and gloom. And I also feel it on the individual level, where it's kind of like, what's happening? I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are in the age range of going through their Neptune square Neptune, which is a transit that you go through in your early 40s, where you're questioning everything about your life and like reflecting. But I also just feel like this Saturn Neptune conjunction that we've all been living through is really highlighting these themes of like, what's real, what's not, what do I really want from my life, what are my soul lessons, where am I dissolving boundaries, where am I feeling like things aren't going fast enough, where do I feel stuck, where is there deeper spiritual healing coming up, where am I feeling like a little lost or hopeless or a little bit foggy about where to go in my path. And so naturally, when we're in these moments where there's kind of a lot of Neptunian and Saturnian energy in the collective, which is pumping the brakes and pushing the fog machine and having us question a lot of things, we naturally turn to our intuition and our divining practices. And we're like, how do I move forward? What do I do? And sometimes those energetic circumstances and places of feeling fear or desperation or attachment to outcomes don't always create the conducive conditions to get accurate, intuitive information for ourselves. And what I've been feeling a lot is this frustration and third eye blocks around trusting our intuition, trusting our timing, trusting, and not even just trusting, but really knowing how supported and guided we are. And I feel like these liminal times are making it harder on us to get accurate, intuitive information. And it sort of goes back to this idea of, are you making space every day for your spiritual and intuitive practices, or are you just tuning in moments where you feel overwhelmed and you need peace and support, which is totally fine, but it's kind of akin to somebody who's like, I'm a writer, but they only write when they're inspired to write. And that's different than someone who's an actual writer who sits down every day to write. So, what I'm saying is, with this spiritual work, we can often be like, I'm spiritual, I'm intuitive, I'm clairsentient, whatever it is. But are you actually making space every single day to practice and to carve that out? Or is that just a title that you're calling yourself? So, I feel like there's something about in this moment where it's liminal space, where we're feeling maybe a little bit disconnected or having a hard time trusting our intuition. I get this feeling of like small little baby steps every day where you're connecting, where you're breathing, where you're feeling your feelings without putting pressure on any kind of answer or outcome, but just making space for your angels to fill every single day. I think that that is going to be really powerful and also give you more confidence to call yourself an intuitive or a psychic or a medium by actually practicing it every single day. So it's kind of a two-part message. Take the part of the message that resonates for you. So as I was starting to tune into the energy of the week, I saw my symbol for a baby. And when I see that, it can be an actual baby. It can also be like a rebirth moment, new project, new life, new seeds being planted. But as I was seeing that baby, it felt like a little wishy-washy. It was like not a full, like vivid image of a baby right in front of me. It was like flickering in and out. It was a little bit distant. So makes me feel kind of like concepts of a plan. It's like concepts of a baby. Like there's something there of like concepts of it, seeing glimpses of the new, having moments of touching up with it, but not being fully in it yet, and kind of trusting the new to arrive as it will. That's the feeling that I got with that baby symbol. Like it might not be fully connected here and now, but you can see it and there's glimpses of it and there's moments of it. So the next message that I got is, I feel like through these times where the collective energy is so heightened, I keep getting this feeling about, needing to take care of our physical body in different ways to support ourselves through these energetic times on Earth. And one of the things that was coming up this week was an emphasis on cooking, nourishment, and intuitive eating. And I felt like there might be cravings or your taste buds changing or craving new foods that you don't usually crave. And there's something about like healing our relationship with food, being more intuitive with food, really listening to what our physical body is asking for instead of being like, at this time I eat this meal and it's going to be this and that, and these are my macros and this and that. There's something about just getting more in touch with our actual physical body. And if we're hungry, listening to that, not being like, I have to wait 2 more hours because it's not my time to eat. So we're really being asked to not override the information that our body is telling us, to listen to what our mind's plan of nourishment is, but instead to really intuitively tune in. Like, what am I needing right now? Do I need something that's more light? Do I need something that's more grounding? Is my eating schedule working for me? Am I mindlessly eating while I'm watching TV or scrolling and then overeating? Like, just intuitively tuning in, seeing what kind of recipes or nourishment excite you, what makes you feel good. Just a big piece here this week with food, or whenever you're tuning in is the time that you're meant to hear that message. The next message that I got for the energy this week, I felt the right side of the crown chakra being blocked. And if you're a regular listener of Magic Hour, there's so many crown blocks, like all the time in the collective. But the right side in particular is the side of release and letting go. And it makes me feel like there's something about holding on to things, having a hard time letting go of things, hitting up against the same wall of consciousness over and over. And I got this message that if something is repeatedly showing you that it's not working for you, it's not serving you, it's not making you feel good, it's not proving itself to be worthy to you, why are you not listening to that info? Why are you trying to debate or change or beg or cling? Let the things that are not working, like trust that, trust what isn't working, let it go and make space for something that is working. And so I feel like there's something about needing more adaptability, more flexibility of thought. And I feel like if we keep hitting up against the same wall and problem and block over and over and over again, it's like not continually burning yourself out, hitting against that same wall, but saying like, okay, I see this wall. I've tried to push through this more times than I can count. I'm not going to do it the same way another time. And starting to let your imagination help you think in a bigger way, create new energetic strategies, find more adaptability. And then with that, I saw the Libra symbol on its side, which is love, balance, relationships, and money. So this might be a relationship dynamic that you keep hitting a wall against, or feeling out of balance, or a money script, or something you're doing in your business that just is not hitting. But for some reason, it's like, I gotta keep pushing it and trying it, but it's getting the same results over and over again. It's like, listen to that and don't burn yourself out trying to change it. Go around it. It's like it doesn't have to be hard. And of course, being a human on earth, there's always going to be hard moments. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not victim shaming if you're going through something hard. I'm just saying, where are you co-creating with that and not listening to the feedback that you're getting? Where are you trying to push through that feedback and change it into something else? So I want to start going into the mediumship now. I had a younger girl in the spirit world, and she actually really had a tragic life. This was a bit of a really heavy mediumship connection for me. So I'm going to speak about it pretty delicately, but I saw a young girl. She looked to be about 14 to me. Interestingly, a rubber ducky was coming up. That was the first thing she showed me. I almost felt like that would be an inside joke or a symbol or something that I would never understand what it is. So I'm just sharing what I got. And I got the feeling that she was kind of failed by the adults in her life. And I got this feeling that she was born into just very sad, lonely, somber circumstances. And I felt like her mom couldn't really be there for her. I feel like her mom was sick in some way, whether it was physical, emotional, or spiritual. I'm not sure, but there was just this sense of like my mom couldn't be there for me. And so I felt like her mom's dad had to step in a lot. But the thing is, her mom's dad also felt stern and like he battled with his own mental health stuff, and he felt very harsh and not very warm or loving. And I just felt like he was very fixed and cranky. And she, this young girl in the spirit world, just felt so like lonely and abandoned to me. And I almost feel like she was just a shell of herself floating through this life where she felt like she had no power, no support. She didn't feel wanted. Like everything just felt so intense for this girl and so sad, but it's all she ever knew. And so I did feel like she and her grandfather got into a car accident. And I don't think she passed from the car accident, but she passed in the hospital a couple of days later. I really felt like the personality of this young girl was very shy, very quiet, very to herself. And there's a couple different messages that she has for the collective today. And like, I just want to cry connecting with her because she had such a difficult life. And it just goes to show you that no matter what you're struggling with, there is always someone who is struggling with so much more. And that's not to say our own struggles aren't valid, but it just puts our struggles into perspective sometimes. And so, one of the messages that she gave is check on the ones who are fine, especially like teenagers, but really anybody. Check on the ones who always have to be self reliant, who act like everything is fine, who never talk to you about their problems or what they're going through, who are always the strong ones. Like, check on them, because she's making me feel like when she was here, she was quiet, she was shy, she was a good girl. She was just kind of like, yeah, I'm good. Everything's fine. But like, it couldn't be farther from fine. And she's giving me this feeling of like teenagers sometimes know more, like even preteens, like preteens into teens know a lot more than we give them credit for. And I feel like there's this sense of in these times of uncertainty and chaos on the collective, there's also a lot of uncertainty and angst and uncertainty about the future and fear for the future. And there's something about tending to and talking to teens that she's bringing up. And I feel like there is also that sense of the teen who acts like everything's okay, who says they're always fine, who's always strong, like double check on them, make them feel supported, and not in a way where it's just like asking them, but really prioritizing creating safe spaces for them to share their heart. The other message that she has is when you feel like you're at a rock bottom moment, when you're in a place where life feels really hopeless or down or stuck, and you feel like you have to be completely self reliant and that there is no one there that supports you, her message is yes, there is. You have a whole team of angels and ancestors in spirit who are with you. And sometimes when we're in the place, the mindset of loneliness and struggle, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as well, because we really believe it to be true. But I get this feeling of like, if you go out into the world in an authentic way and you're on your healing journey and you're working on yourself and you're in the world in that way, your angels will direct you to the right people who you can connect with. It doesn't always have to be someone in your family or someone you grew up with. Like, you will be sent angels, you will be sent earth angels. You are not alone, and not to co-create with that belief because it's not true. So there's just this sense like you do have support. It's never hopeless. The way will become clear. Take these moments to sit in the love of your angels and guides, and the next step will reveal itself. And sometimes when we're feeling stuck and blocked and hopeless, the answer and the medicine really sits in what we've been avoiding. And I think if you can just dive headfirst into what you've been avoiding, get the message and the healing from it, make space for your angels and guides, make little baby steps of progress forward to question narratives of hopelessness and victim consciousness, you're never alone, and the momentum will grow, and you're giving your angels momentum to work with. And you'll look back and you'll thank yourself for getting the ball moving. And that's what I feel too, is that if you've incarnated into a family with like such hopeless, layered trauma and intensity, it's also a radical healing act to make a new choice and to dare to hope. Sometimes when you're in a lineage where things have been so dark, just daring to hope and taking a gamble on your higher self and listening to your angels and your intuition and moving in alignment with your heart is the most radical healing act you can ever do. And you have so much support from the spirit world cheering you along every step of the way. And as I talk about that, like, I just have the biggest smile on my face. And this beautiful spirit person is like, there's so many spirits in the spirit world who felt hopeless and who really were abandoned and who, the odds were stacked against us. And every time somebody in a similar circumstance chooses love, chooses hope, chooses trust, chooses magic, it's a win for us all. It's a win for us all. And so they are always helping you, and you're never alone. Even if our physical body can't perceive it, your spirit knows it on a deep, deep level. And that's the thing about the duality that I was talking about in the beginning, is that our physical body is creating the illusion of duality and separation. But the truth of who we really are is all one, is all spirit. And we come back to that after we pass. So there's more hope. Keep just chipping away at things with little baby steps. Keep trust falling into your angels and guides, and the path will clear. The path will clear and more will be revealed. There won't be a feeling of helplessness or intensity or fog forever. So I'm sending you all so much love. I know that there's a lot of potential for joy and magic, of course, this week as well, but these are really the messages that wanted to come through. And check on the people in your life who feel like they have to take on everything on their own, because more often than not, they're struggling with something that they don't want to be seen. And it's an act of earth angel love to be there for them too. So I'm sending you all so much love. Have a beautiful week, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Magic Hour podcast. We are so happy you're here. I absolutely love to connect with you all on Instagram at angels_and_amethyst. I love to get your thoughts on each episode, and I get so excited to get your emails to contact@magichourpod.com. Make sure you're subscribing to Magic Hour so you never miss a new episode in your inbox. We have so many amazing guests right around the corner as always. Please make sure to send your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to contact@magichourpod.com, and we'll enter you into an angel reading giveaway with me, which is just my favorite thing, to get to connect with the hummingbird community in that way. You get a bonus entry if you also send a screenshot of your YouTube subscription, and also a screenshot of sharing us on your story and tagging us at Magic Hour Podcast on Instagram. The next giveaway will happen when we hit 288 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We so appreciate you sharing the podcast with other magical people, and it really helps us keep this project alive. To learn more about me, my work, to book a reading with me, take a workshop, please visit angelsandamethyst.com. And remember, you are magic.